Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Hello again.
So this is, well, it's a pretty significant one for us. Number 100.
100 deep dives. It's quite something when you think about it.
It really is. And, to mark this 100th dive, we wanted to do something, well, maybe a bit ambitious.
I'd say ambitious is the right word. We're essentially trying to synthesize leadership lessons across, 25 centuries.
Yeah, exactly. From ancient philosophers like Plato, Xenophon talking about Cyrus the Great, all the way through spiritual texts, military strategy, right up to modern examples like Pixar, Navy SEALs, OKRs.
It's a huge range. The goal really is to see if we can connect those dots, find the common threads, the universal ideas about leadership that just endure.
That's it, the timeless stuff. What are those core traits? Character, wisdom, how you command. Things that seem to pop up again and again, regardless of the era.
Right, so we've kind of structured it into three main chunks.
Okay.
First, we'll look at the internal side character, wisdom, self-mastery, the foundation.
The bedrock. Got it.
Then section 2 is about leading through the messiness, right? Uncertainty, strategy, resilience, how you actually operate in the real world.
Makes sense. Chaos management.
Kind of, yeah. And finally, section 3 will dig into team leadership, communication, systems, accountability, the architecture of making it work with others.
Okay, fantastic. So it's a real journey through the ages, all centered on this enduring human quest. How to lead effectively with wisdom, courage, and, well, character.
Let's dive in.
All right, section 1, the internal foundation. It seems like almost every source we looked at, ancient or modern, really hammers this point. Real leadership starts inside, not with a title, not with the power, but with yourself.
Absolutely. It's striking how consistent that message is, and one of the most potent distinctions that comes up, especially in some of the more foundational texts, is this idea of the character ethic versus the personality ethic.
Okay, explain that. What's the difference?
Well, the personality ethic, that's kind of what you see a lot of today, isn't it? It's the focus on skills, techniques, public image, charisma hacks.
Like 5 easy steps to influence. That kind of thing.
Exactly. It's the polish, the surface layer. It can be useful, sure, but the argument is that it's ultimately superficial. It doesn't build deep trust or, importantly, real self-respect.
Whereas the character ethic.
That goes deeper. It's about core principles. Integrity, fairness, courage, justice, human dignity. It's about self-discipline, taking responsibility, achieving what some call dominion over self.
Dominion over self. That sounds foundational.
It is. The idea is that genuine effectiveness with others, genuine trust, can only really grow from that internal core of character. If you're just using techniques, people eventually sense the manipulation, right?
Yeah, you can sort of feel when someone's performing leadership rather than embodying it.
Precisely. But if your actions flow from deeply held principles, there's an authenticity there. And critically, if you center your life on these unchanging principles, you gain a kind of internal stability.
Yes.
Well, think about it. If your sense of security, your guidance, your wisdom, your power, if it all comes from things that change, like your job title, how much money you have, what people think of you.
You're constantly vulnerable. One bad quarter, one critical comment, and your world shakes.
Right. But principles like fairness or integrity, they don't change based on circumstances. So anchoring yourself to them gives you this incredible internal compass, this gyroscope that keeps you steady even when everything outside is, going haywire.
That makes a lot of sense. And this idea of internal order, wow, it lines up perfectly with what we see in someone like Plato.
Oh, absolutely. Plato's concept of individual justice in the Republic, it's not just about obeying laws outside yourself, it's fundamentally about internal harmony.
Can you break that down a bit, the 3 parts of the soul?
Sure. So Plato argues the soul has essentially 3 elements. There's the rational part that's reason, the pursuit of truth, wisdom.
Okay, the head.
Kind of, yeah. Then there's the spirited part. Think emotions like indignation, courage, ambition, the drive to act.
The heart? Maybe. Drive.
Maybe, yeah. And finally, the desiring part, appetites, physical needs, basic urges, hunger, thirst, etc.
Right, the gut instincts.
And for Plato, justice in the individual means each of these parts is doing its proper job, and this is key. The rational part is in charge. Wisdom resides in that ruling, rational element.
So if your desires are running the show.
That's internal tyranny, according to Plato. You're a slave to your appetites. True self-mastery, true justice comes when reason guides the spirit and keeps desires in check.
Which explains why ancient leadership education, like what Xenophon describes for Cyrus the Great, wasn't just about strategy or politics.
Not at all. The Cyropedia emphasizes Cyrus's incredibly rigorous upbringing, lots of physical exercise, temperance, enduring hardship.
Why is it so important?
Xenophon actually says it was to draw off bodily humors, basically, to discipline the body so it wouldn't cloud the mind. It was about ensuring the rational part of his soul was strong, clear, and ready to rule. It's holistic training for wisdom and self-control.
A disciplined body for a disciplined mind, leading to just leadership.
Exactly. And you see this reflected in how Cyrus is taught about justice itself. Xenophon draws this sharp contrast between the Persian system Cyrus was raised in and the Mede system.
How did they differ?
In Persia, the emphasis was on equality before the law. The ruler received specific, legally defined dues. It was principle-based.
Yeah.
The Mede approach, as described by Cyrus's mother, was more tyrannical. The leader could basically claim control over everything and everyone all and sundry. It was arbitrary, based on the leader's whims.
Ah, so personality-driven versus principle-driven applied to entire systems of governance.
Precisely. His mother literally warns him not to become a tyrant by wanting more than everyone else combined. That's the path to ruin. It's the character ethic versus the personality ethic on a grand scale.
Fascinating. Okay, let's bring in another ancient perspective here, maybe a more spiritual one. The Bhagavad Gita. How does it speak to this internal foundation?
The Gita offers a really profound take on this, especially around the idea of renunciation or sannyasam.
Which usually means giving things up, right? Leaving the world behind.
That's the common idea, but the Gita reframes it. True renunciation isn't just quitting your job or retreating to a cave. It's realized as yoga, which means linking with the supreme, or finding true purpose when you give up sakalpa.
And sakalpa is?
It's the desire for self-satisfaction, the attachment to the results or the fruits of your actions.
That seems counterintuitive, especially today. Isn't striving for results, for success, for personal gain, isn't that what drives everything? How can a leader operate if they don't care about outcomes?
But it's not about not acting or not caring about doing the job well. It's about detaching your inner sense of worth and peace from the outcome of that action. You do your duty, you act skillfully, but you're not mentally riding the roller coaster of success and failure.
Okay, so you're freed up to act more rationally, perhaps, less driven by fear of failure or greed for success.
Exactly. This detachment leads to what the Gita calls the Brahmabhuta stages. It's a state of being where you feel complete in yourself, naturally joyful, and you achieve this profound equanimity.
Equanimity.
Yeah.
Like seeing things equally.
Yes. Material distinctions, like whether a position is high or low, or whether something is valuable, like gold, or worthless, like a stone, they become seen as just ephemeral appearances, not the ultimate reality.
Wow. That sounds like the ultimate emotional regulation. A leader in that state wouldn't panic under pressure, wouldn't get easily swayed.
Precisely. It's maximum internal stability. You're anchored in something deeper than the day-to-day ups and downs.
Which then connects, maybe surprisingly, to a more modern psychological perspective, like Viktor Frankl's.
It does, in a way. Frankl, from his experiences, emphasized the search for meaning. But crucially, he said it's not about finding some big, abstract meaning of life out there.
What is it then?
It's about finding the specific meaning of your life right now, in this moment. It's tied to a unique task, a unique mission that only you can fulfill. It's deeply personal and irreplaceable.
So whether it's Cyrus leading justly, or a devotee serving without attachment, or Frankl finding meaning in suffering, it's about this deep internal commitment to something beyond immediate self-interest.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's that internal anchor, that principle-centered core that defines the start of effective, enduring leadership. It's the foundation upon which everything else has to be built.
Okay, so we've established that internal foundation, the character, the wisdom, the self-mastery. Now, how does that leader actually operate out in the world?
Because the world is, well, it's messy. It's uncertain, chaotic, full of conflict.
Right. This is where strategy and resilience come in, and probably the most powerful modern concept for dealing with this inherent uncertainty is anti-fragility.
Anti-fragility. Okay, I've heard the term, but let's nail it down. It's not just being tough or resilient, is it?
No, it's more than that. Nassim Taleb, who coined it, makes a clear distinction. Robustness or resilience is about withstanding shocks, staying the same. Anti-fragility is about actually benefiting from shocks, volatility, uncertainty, getting stronger because of them. Okay, how does that work? How can chaos actually help a system?
Think about it in terms of upside and downside. A fragile system is often optimized for calm conditions, but it has this hidden large downside. A small stressor hits it in just the wrong way, and boom, collapse.
Like that highly efficient supply chain you mentioned earlier. Great when things are smooth, disastrous when one ship gets stuck.
Exactly. An anti-fragile system, on the other hand, is structured differently. It might have a small, known downside, but it has a potentially large upside from unexpected events. The right tail of the probability curve is fatter, as Taleb puts it. Stressors provide information, they force adaptation, they reveal hidden strengths.
So it learns and improves from being hit, like the immune system getting stronger after fighting off a virus.
That's a great analogy, and this concept has fascinating applications in leadership, especially in creative fields. Think about Pixar.
Right, Ed Catmull. How do you apply this? Movies are inherently risky, aren't they? Some hit, some bomb.
Hugely risky. Catmull understood that you couldn't build a sustainable studio if your survival depended on every single movie being a massive success. That's fragile thinking.
So what did he do?
He built the studio financially and culturally to expect failure, to expect the screw-up, as he called it, the film that doesn't perform. The system had to be able to absorb that financial hit, obviously.
Okay, buffer money.
But more importantly, the culture had to be anti-fragile. When a film failed, it couldn't trigger a cycle of fear, blame, and risk aversion. Instead, it had to be treated as data, as a learning opportunity. How do we get better? What went wrong? That ability to absorb stress and gain knowledge from it, that's putting anti-fragility into practice.
So accepting, even planning for, failure isn't weakness, it's actually a core part of long-term strength.
Absolutely, it's strategic realism. Now let's shift from, say, Hollywood to the battlefield. Military strategy is drenched in how to handle chaos and uncertainty. Clausewitz, for instance.
On Persian general.
Yeah.
What does he tell us about maneuvering in messy situations?
Clausewitz emphasizes concentration and finding weak points. If the enemy spreads their forces too thin, you use your concentrated strength to break through their line at a specific point.
Punch a hole.
Right. Or, if their flanks are exposed, you don't even need to break through. You bypass them. You maneuver around their strength to hit their vulnerability. It's about creating local superiority, even if you're outnumbered overall.
Makes sense. But what if the enemy isn't inept? What if they're smart and resourceful?
Well, Clausewitz makes a crucial distinction there, too. Your strategy has to adapt to the quality of your opponent. Against a weak, inept enemy, you can afford to be bold, take risks, maybe even gamble a bit.
Because they're likely to make mistakes you can exploit.
Exactly. But against a really sharp, resourceful enemy, you have to be much more cautious. Conserve your strength. Be patient. Anticipate their countermoves. You can't just assume they'll blunder.
So strategy isn't just about your plan. It's deeply about understanding the capabilities and likely reactions of the other side.
It's fundamentally interactive. Which brings us to another giant of strategy, Sun Tzu, and his emphasis on focus.
Don't get distracted.
Pretty much. Sun Tzu warns generals against too frequent detachment-splitting forces too often, trying to be strong everywhere. Instead, you have to identify the main objective, the capital object, and pour your focus there.
Even if it means letting go of smaller things.
Yes. This is critical. He says you must be willing to accept small misfortunes to avoid a big one. If defending some minor outpost distracts you from the main battle, you have to be willing to let that outpost go.
That requires serious discipline. The temptation must be to fight everywhere, defend everything.
It is. It requires that rational mind Plato talked about to override the spirited desire to win every single encounter. You need strategic patience and focus on the ultimate goal.
Okay, so focus is key. But then there's the moment of decision itself, especially high-stakes decisions, maybe irreversible ones. How do leaders navigate that pressure?
This is where frameworks like extreme ownership, coming from the Navy SEALs, offer really practical insights. They draw a sharp line between decisions that are reversible, like changing a plan or a route, and those that are not, like the decision to use lethal force. That cannot be undone. There's an example given where a sniper had a potential target in sight but held fire. Why?
Why?
Because the situation was ambiguous. Waiting kept options open. Pulling the trigger would have been final. In those high-consequence, irreversible moments, careful consideration, even delay, is often strategically superior to a quick, aggressive action based on incomplete information. It's temperance under extreme pressure.
Wow. Okay, so sometimes the strongest move is not to act immediately.
Right. Now, contrast that careful waiting with Cyrus the Great again, specifically his siege of Babylon. He didn't just rely on brute force.
No, he was cunning, wasn't he? Attacked during a festival.
Exactly. He used intelligence about the enemy's internal state. He knew it was a major festival. He knew they'd be drinking, celebrating, defenses likely down. He exploited their lack of discipline, their lack of self-mastery.
So he leveraged their internal chaos.
Precisely. Xenophon even implies Babylon was already conquered internally by its own complacency and arrogance before Cyrus even attacked. Cyrus just recognized and exploited the opportunity created by their weakness. It's strategy meeting opportunity. Understanding the human element is often the weakest link.
All right, we've covered the leader's internal world and their external strategies for dealing with chaos. But leaders don't operate in a vacuum, right? They lead teams, organizations. So this third section is about building that structure, that architecture for effective teamwork.
Exactly. And if there's one bedrock principle that comes through again and again, especially in modern complex environments, it's the need for trust and radical candor, open, honest communication.
Okay. Candor sounds good, but radical candor can sound harsh, confrontational.
It can be misinterpreted that way, but the best examples show it's actually rooted in deep care and respect. Pixar, again, is a fascinating case study here with their concept of good notes during film development.
Good notes. What makes a note good in their culture?
It's not just random feedback. There are rules. A good note has to be specific. You can't just say, I don't like this character. You have to say why. Maybe I'm confused about the character's motivation in this scene.
So it's actionable, not just opinion.
Right. And crucially, it must be offered with empathy. The goal isn't to make the note giver feel smart or to demand a specific fix. The goal is to help the recipient see the problem and inspire them to find the solution. It respects their ownership.
So it's constructive criticism framed as, here's a problem I see, how can we solve it together? Rather than, your work is bad, fix it my way.
Precisely. It builds trust because the intent is clearly supportive, even when the feedback is tough. It separates critique of the work from critique of the person.
That's a subtle but powerful distinction. And related to this, there's an interesting point about how you deliver feedback, especially when disagreeing.
Yes, the idea that speaking tentatively can actually make your point stronger.
How does that work? Seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't strong disagreement require forceful language?
You'd think so, but psychologically, if you come in really hard and dogmatic, you're wrong, this is the only way, people often just shut down, they get defensive.
Right, their walls go up.
But if you frame it more tentatively, I might be seeing this wrong, but I wonder if there's a risk here. Or could we explore this alternative?
Yeah.
It actually makes people more open to considering your point of view. It invites dialogue rather than demanding submission.
So softening the delivery can actually increase the reception. Interesting. Now, what happens when this kind of open communication breaks down? You mentioned the Cassandra curse.
Ah, yes. We usually think of Cassandra as the tragic figure cursed to speak the truth but never be believed. But in an organizational context, the real curse often falls on the leadership, on the management, who are unable to hear or perceive the truth that's being spoken around them.
So the problem isn't that people aren't speaking up, it's that the system filters it out or punishes it.
Often, yes. There's this concept of the hidden vital information that doesn't make it to the top because the culture explicitly or implicitly punishes bad news or dissent. People learn it's safer to stay quiet or only share good news.
The leaders remain blind,
Yeah.
even if surrounded by people who know the truth. That's dangerous.
Extremely. It highlights why psychological safety, the ability to speak truth to power without fear, is absolutely essential for any leader who actually wants to know what's going on. You have to actively fight against the tendency for information to get hidden.
Okay, so that culture of candor is vital. How does that then translate into actual organizational structures? How do you manage complexity and ensure people know what to do?
Well, one powerful model, again from the military but highly applicable elsewhere, is decentralized command.
Like the SEALs use, what's the core principle?
It's about breaking down command into manageable units. Instead of one leader trying to control, say, 10 people directly, a leader might only directly command 2 or 3 subordinate leaders who then command their own small teams.
Reduces the communication bottlenecks.
Exactly. But the real magic isn't just the structure, it's the mindset shift it requires. Junior leaders can't just wait for orders. They need to understand the overall mission, the commander's intent.
Why is intent so crucial?
Because it empowers them to act independently when things inevitably go sideways, when communication breaks down or the situation changes rapidly. They don't ask, what should I do? They understand the goal and can proactively say, based on the intent, here's what I'm going to do. It pushes decision-making down to the front lines.
That requires immense trust and clarity from the top, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which leads nicely into another modern tool for achieving that clarity and focus: OKRs, objectives, and key results.
Right. Widely used in tech, but spreading elsewhere. What's the key benefit?
Focus, focus, focus. Good OKR practice limits you to maybe 3 to 5 key objectives per cycle. You can't try to do everything.
Forces prioritization.
Yes. And then, crucially, for accountability, each key result needs a single, unambiguous owner.
Why only one owner? Can't teams share responsibility?
The sources are pretty clear on this. Shared ownership tends to weaken accountability. If a target is missed, it's too easy for co-owners to point fingers or assume the other person was handling it. Assigning one owner makes responsibility crystal clear.
Okay. No ambiguity.
None. And OKRs also cleverly manage expectations by distinguishing between committed objectives, things you absolutely must achieve 100%, and aspirational or stretch objectives.
The moonshots.
Kind of. With aspirational OKRs, hitting maybe 70% is still considered a success because the goal was deliberately ambitious. It encourages teams to aim high without the fear of certain failure if they don't quite make it. It builds in a bit of that anti-fragile tolerance for falling short while striving.
That's smart. Okay, speaking of accountability and knowing when things are working, how does a leader, especially in a complex project like making a movie, know when they need to step in? When has a director, say, lost the plot?
Pixar, again, has a really insightful, very human metric for this. It's not about spreadsheets or schedules, primarily.
What is it?
It's the confidence of the crew, the frontline team. They say the ultimate barometer is when a director loses the faith of the people actually doing the work.
How does that manifest?
The crew gets antsy. They start standing around, waiting to be told exactly what to do. Initiative dries up. There's a sense of drift. It's not necessarily personal dislike. It's a collective feeling that the person in charge doesn't have a clear path forward anymore.
Wow. So the team's behavior becomes the clearest signal that leadership is faltering.
Exactly. When the front line is confused or hesitant, it reflects confusion or hesitation at the top. The command center has lost clarity.
This really circles back to the leader's fundamental role, doesn't it? It's not just about strategy or systems, but about cultivating the team, inspiring confidence.
Absolutely. Which leads us to this idea of the leader as cultivator and servant. Charles Schwab, the steel magnate, talked about this decades ago. He said his greatest asset wasn't capital or factories.
What was it?
His ability to arouse enthusiasm in people. He believed strongly in appreciation and encouragement. He famously said he was lavish in his praise and loath to find fault.
Why so anti-criticism?
He felt criticism from superiors crushes ambition, it kills motivation. Whereas genuine appreciation and encouragement, that makes people want to do their best to grow. It's focusing on nurturing the potential in others.
Building people up, not tearing them down. That feels very character-driven.
It is, and it connects right back to someone like Cyrus. Remember his prayer after his victories? He didn't pray for more wealth or power.
No, he asked Zeus to help him outdo his friends in, what was it? Courtesy and kindness.
Exactly, in courtesy and kindly dealing. His delight, Xenophon suggests, was in serving and benefiting his people, not just enriching himself. That's the servant leadership ideal thousands of years ago.
So leadership, at its best, is fundamentally relational, about building others up, fostering trust.
Which brings us to one final, really crucial principle for managing those interdependent relationships. Win-win or no deal.
From Stephen Covey, right? What's the core idea?
It's about seeking mutual benefit in all interactions, but the key is the no deal part. If you genuinely cannot find a solution where both parties feel they benefit, where it feels like a win for both sides,
Then what?
then it's better to walk away agreeably. To say, okay, we can't find common ground on this right now, so no deal.
Why is no deal so important? Why not just push for your own win?
Because forcing a win-lose outcome where you win and they lose might feel good in the short term, but it breeds resentment. It damages the relationship, especially if you trample on their core values to get your win. You might win the battle but lose the war because you've destroyed trust.
And lose-win, where you just give in, isn't sustainable either.
No, that leads to your own resentment and burnout. Win-win or no deal is the only principle that allows for sustainable, long-term, trust-based relationships. It respects both your needs and theirs. It's the ultimate expression of that character-based interdependence we started with. Hashtag tag 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 outro. So when you pull it all together, it's quite a map we've charted today, isn't it? From that deep internal foundation, Plato's rational soul, the Gita's detachment, Frankl's search for specific meaning.
Yeah, all rooted in character and unchanging principles. Then we moved outward, looking at how that leader navigates the messy reality using anti-fragility to benefit from chaos, Clausewitz and Sun Tzu for strategic focus, extreme ownership for decision-making under pressure.
And finally, we looked at the architecture needed to lead others effectively, building trust through Pixar's kind of candor, creating clarity and accountability with things like decentralized command and OKRs.
And always grounding it in that servant leadership ideal like Cyrus or Schwab emphasized, aiming for those win-win outcomes.
Right. And the overwhelming message, synthesizing across all these diverse sources, philosophy, military, corporate, spiritual, seems remarkably consistent, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like it boils down to this. Service-level techniques, external power, fancy tools, they're all temporary. They can be useful, but they're not the core.
The core, the enduring part, seems to be that internal principle-based foundation, character, wisdom, and then the ability to build on that foundation to inspire trust, navigate uncertainty, and genuinely serve the people you lead.
Absolutely. So thinking about you, our listener, trying to lead today in whatever context you're in, this synthesis offers, I think, a powerful perspective.
It does, and it leads to a fascinating final thought, especially when we consider someone like Cyrus again.
Go on.
Remember, Xenophon notes Cyrus was taught deceit and cunning, but specifically for dealing with animals during hunts, not against other men initially. The idea was to sharpen his strategic mind for war, to be better than raw recruits.
Okay, sharpening the tools of strategy.
But then, later, after conquering the incredibly wealthy city of Sardis, he resists the urge to just sack it, to let his army plunder everything.
Why? That was standard practice, wasn't it? The spoils of war.
It was. But Cyrus reasoned differently. He realized that while immediate plunder would bring wealth, it would destroy the city's long-term productivity. And, crucially, it would undermine his own army's discipline and obedience. Letting them run wild for short-term gain would make them harder to lead later.
So he chose long-term stability and order over short-term chaotic enrichment. That required foresight and self-control.
Tremendous self-control. And that presents the perennial tightrope walk for any leader, doesn't it?
It really does. Which leads us to the final question for you to maybe chew on.
Considering everything we've discussed, the need for cunning strategy in a competitive world, like Cyrus hunting or Clausewitz maneuvering.
But also the absolute moral imperative for character, for transparency, for the kind of candor Pixar cultivates, for the win-win approach.
How do you, as a leader today, balance those two things? How do you balance the pragmatic necessity of sometimes being cunning or aggressive against the enemy, your competitors in the marketplace, perhaps?
With the moral necessity of being sincere, transparent, and building trust with your own people, your employees, your partners, your customers. Where is that line between the strategy needed to win and the character needed to lead well?
This is not an easy question.
Definitely not. Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this rather epic 100th Deep Dive.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We'll see you next time.